order. The State of Rhode Island Coastal Resources Management Council's Rights of Way Subcommittee meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, February 11, 2025. I would ask that the record reflect the subcommittee members that are present here this evening, as well as our council and staff from CRMC. First matter on our agenda will be approval of the minutes from January 14, 2025. I know they have been provided to the subcommittee members. I would ask for motion to approve them or any corrections if those are necessary.
Move approval.
Motion's been made by Mr. Gagnon. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Reynolds. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The minutes are approved. Next would be staff report.
And no staff report tonight, Mr. Chair.
Right. Bring us to number 3 on our agenda, status and update presentation, Buttonwoods right of way, Andrew Comstock Road in Warwick. I would ask Attorney DeSisto to provide an update and or status.
I'd like to give the status, and Mr. Lang set this here. Perhaps he'd like to come up and sit so that.
Mr. Radovic is here from the Beach Association.
And Mr. Radovic also.
We've had discussions with staff about scoping, and I presented a document that shows evidence of Buttonwoods Avenue being a historic way to the shore. And at this point, I'm limiting my conversation to that issue. It's very clear. It's based upon the King's maps from the 1700s, which have been accepted by the state of Rhode Island and by the US government, most recently in a Supreme Court case, United States versus Maine, which was a pilotage case where the Rhode Island pilots were attempting to cause the Connecticut and New York pilots to pilot ships going north of Block Island. And the US Supreme Court had a original jurisdiction issue on this. They appointed a master, who of course was a judge, and the master found that these maps are relevant and that they're currently being used as evidence of undersea territory. And now, of course, the map that I presented shows Buttonwoods Avenue as a royal highway to the sea in 1779. And this, what I'm suggesting is that we focus on Buttonwoods Avenue as a historic way to the sea based upon this map, and then going forward to the current comprehensive plan of the city of Warwick, which identifies it as a collector highway all the way to the sea. So that between the 1700s and the 2100s, 2000s, the history is continuous, and there's been public acceptance by the state of Rhode Island and the State Highway Commission in 1912, which published Buttonwoods Avenue as a highway to the sea, which is currently in the Rhode Island Department of Transportation archives. So there's very strong evidence that Buttonwoods Avenue is a right-of-way to the sea, and I'm presenting this evidence tonight.
Again, my name is Douglas Rademacher. I'm the president of the Buttonwood Beach Association, and we presented to the committee last year our evidence from the Rhode Island Attorney General and the Supreme Court, and also documents from the city of Warwick that support our position that the streets are private. We don't have anything additional to submit at this time.
So this is a status update of the matter. And as you know, this is not the first time that we've had this issue come up, and thank you for getting those minutes from the March 26, 2019 meeting of the subcommittee. But in this instance, we do have quite a bit of written materials here on this. What I'd like to do, and this was actually scheduled, Jeff, as you know, for this time around. We're not quite done with our memo because we've gotten quite a bit of material from both sides on this. We'd like to distill that. The next action for the council will be whether or not to hold a public hearing in the city of Warwick on this particular right of way, because that's the next step in the process. The first step has pretty much been completed. There's been a lot of research done, not only by Mark and I, but also by the parties in this matter. And that needs to be distilled out so you can take a look. Your next function, if you determine that this is a public right of way to the shore, would be to hold a public hearing in the city of Warwick. Hopefully we can get City Hall for that so that there can be the public can get a chance to speak on this. Then you would vote, if at all, to move this thing up to the council. That's the procedure that you need to have here. At issue is whether or not Buttonwoods Avenue is a public right of way or a private right of way. And there's evidence on both sides. So I think it needs to be distilled out and taken from there. This is partly, there's some legal issues here, and I've spoken to a lawyer, not only to Mr. Langston, but also for a lawyer for Buttonwoods Association on the legal issues, but there's factual issues too, I think, that need to be addressed on this matter. So if a vote is to be taken here, it's just a status. It's just to get a memorandum to you summarizing the arguments on both sides and the evidence on both sides of this very interesting issue.
If I could comment, if you've been in discussion with the attorney for the other side, I wonder where the attorney for the other side is. I'm a little bit uncomfortable without that person present.
It was a brief conversation and no documents were given.
Okay, so at this point, it's just a vote from the subcommittee, like to,
You've already taken a vote, so I think it'd just be a revote to say Tony and Mark, get moving on your memo.
all right,
It's just we have gotten a lot of material from both sides. Needs to be distilled and summarized.
okay. And what about the public hearing? Is that something that flows?
Not ready for that. You need to take a look at this. You can get final presentations from both sides when you see the memorandum, and then you take a vote on public hearing.
Okay,
Do you think you could realistically get through that in a month or 2 months, or what would be the timeline for that?
Mark says he guarantees a month.
Thank you, Mark.
Well,
We'll get it done in a month.
can I make? If I may, we are on a schedule of every other month where we're still working on the Spring Ave extension matter. So that would be the next month's rights of way subcommittee meeting agenda item. So this would come back in April.
So much the better. And this has been kicking around a long time. We have gotten a lot of information on, so I think that's appropriate, and we'll get going on this one.
So would it be that the memorandum's available in a month so that we have a month to review it, or?
Can you do it? Do you mind sending it out to both gentlemen? Yeah, we can do it.
Okay, thank you.
Mark guarantees it.
That's great.
all right. You've heard discussion from our counsel, legal counsel. I'd entertain a motion to once again reconfirm the vote that was previously taken to encourage you, authorize you
You have to try harder.
to try try to put the legal proper, but someone want to make that motion?
Make the motion.
Our motion's been made by Mr. Gagnon. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Reynolds. Any discussion? If none, I'll poll the subcommittee. Mr. Gagnon, Ms. Reynolds,
Aye.
I too, Ray McCoy, vote aye.
If I may, just before the gentlemen leave, both sides on this issue, they've been very cooperative and have given us quite a bit of material. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next matter, number 4, our agenda would be status and update presentation on the right-of-way designation for action Everett Avenue in Westerly.
Well, I'd like to start off on this one.
Okay,
So you have a packet of materials that actually stretches back to the 1970s. And in looking at records that this subcommittee has had, it appears that there was a public hearing on Everett Avenue and other rights of way in the town of Westerly at Westerly Town Hall on June 30th, 1980. And at that time, evidence was taken. We're focusing just on Everett Avenue tonight. That a title search was done by an attorney named John Lallo, who later on became a judge. And it was his opinion as a title attorney and also the opinion of the then legal counsel for this subcommittee in the council, Alan Goldman, that Everett Avenue was a public right of way to the shore. And in fact, a subcommittee voted that night to recommend that it be designated as the public right of way to the shore. So several steps were taken back then for reasons that I have not been able to ascertain from the records. That was never completed, but we have reviewed all of the materials from that time. I agree with the original assessment of the attorneys. We do have one of the solicitors from Westerly here. We have gotten correspondence from them that the town of Westerly considers this Everett Avenue to be a public right of way and a public right of way to the shore. The testimony at the time, back in 1980, from the public indicated the same. What we need to do is get this one going. Not going to have a public hearing because you've already had one, albeit many years ago. But that's where things stand now. I know that there's people here that wish to speak about it. You may want to hear about them before taking any action.
would be first in line.
Well, I think there's some proponents here, are there? Well, maybe they should speak first.
All right.
Now, this is no swear in, Mr. Palazzolo, because it's not a public hearing. We're not asking for
I don't-
testimony,
Thank you.
but you have given some correspondence on this. The committee would like to hear what you have to say.
Okay.
Could you just identify yourself for the record?
Certainly. Anthony Michael Palazzolo Jr. from North Stonington, Connecticut. As always, I must on the record say that I'm licensed to practice law in Connecticut and California. I'm not licensed to practice law in Rhode Island. I have no clients with any interest in this matter. I can't because I'm not licensed in Rhode Island. I do a fair amount of access advocacy. It's all on the basis of being a would-be user of rights of ways. Again, I don't have any clients, never have, never taken any time for anything. Because I don't have any clients. Nothing I say here should be construed as opinion of law. I can't make one here. I'm not licensed in Rhode Island. Starting back in about September of 2020, quite a few of us down in Westerly got to know each other and started focusing on rights of ways. We've continued to work together since then, and most of them are members of a few of them are members of the Westerly Harbor Management Commission. We all have been working hard to research rights of ways, and we've made substantial progress. I got a fresh copy of this file about 2 weeks ago, and I believe 43 of the 47 pages were my correspondence. The remaining 4 pages were essentially Town of Westerly requesting that the file be opened. All the substantive information as far as 2 weeks ago came from me, based on my research and based on research of the Harbor Management Commission. I look at everything. I talk to everyone. One of the things that we've done is to get a copy of the CRMC files circa 1978 to 1980 that Mr. DeSisto just spoke of. I was able to discern why Everett Avenue was not finally adopted as a right of way in 1980. The CRMC files include notes from these hearings. And those notes indicated, by the way, I provided them to you in this file, so you can look at them, but they came from you. They indicate that the full council actually did approve this and several other rights of ways in January of 1980. Inexplicably, in August of 1980, the chairman made a motion that several of these rights of ways be withdrawn from designation and put into a different status, something like uncertain or to be determined. And the record indicated that he did that in order to provide abutting landowners more time to provide relevant evidence. That was 1980. This is 2025. It's been 45 years. Personally, I think that's enough time for people to come up with evidence that might indicate this is not a right of way. So I would encourage you to adopt this as a state designated right of way. And I would encourage you to pick this case up where it was in August of 1980. As Mr. DeSisto indicated, there was already a public hearing. As I indicated, your files show there was already a vote from the full council, and it was simply put into a status that I consider to be purgatory for a while to see if additional evidence comes forward. As far as I know, no evidence has come forward since then. I've looked at your files. I haven't found a scrap of paper since then. So I would request that with respect to this right of way, you simply reopen it and pass it. Now, I have provided additional information. None of it indicates that it's anything but a public road. I provided a deed from 1890, which covers Everett Avenue and virtually every important road in the village of Watch Hill. Was executed by as far as I know, the record title holder of most of Watch Hill at the time. In 1891, the town council minutes indicate that the town council accepted that deed, ordered that it be recorded, and ordered that all of those roads be incorporated into the road network of the town of Westerly. That's pretty clear as far as I'm concerned. I provided those minutes as well. I provided various mappings that were referenced in the deed. And I also provided about 8 or so newspaper articles from the Westerly Sun, ranging from 1907 to I believe 1948, discussing various substantial road work projects that were done on Everett Avenue in that time frame. Kind of thing that the town wouldn't be doing unless everybody understood that this is part of the road network. This right of way was found by the governor's committee on rights of ways in 1958. They just generated a report. There's Everett Avenue in there. Of course, the Rights of Way Commission included that in 1970. As Mr. DeSisto said, it was found to be a right of way in 78 by John Lalo, etc. It just seems to me the evidence is overwhelming, and it's only gotten more overwhelming since this was put into that limbo status. So I think I'd like to leave it there, and I appreciate your time. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
May I ask one question? Just one question. So it's fair to say, Mr. Palazzolo, that you agree with my assessment
I absolutely agree with your assessment, and I would take it, obviously, I would take it at least 1 or 2 steps further. This was passed, the full council, the record that I've seen from the CRMC indicates that the full council adopted this and then put it into purgatory to give the abutting landowners a little more time to provide additional evidence. As far as I know, there hasn't been any in favor of the abutters. And there are at least 3 other rights of ways to which this has been done. As you know, there's an annual report on rights of ways for the whole state. From 1980 forward, you can find year after year after year, there's like about 4 or 5 rights of ways that were treated this way, and they all were designated as something like under investigation or indeterminate, whatever it was. All of those should be reopened, in my opinion. All of them should be passed now, unless there's new evidence to the contrary. I would recommend that you reopen these cases and start from where they were. Simply look for any additional information to the contrary.
Thank you. Any questions from the subcommittee? Okay, thank you.
No one else? I don't mean to impose, but I see Town Solicitor Sarah O'Toole here from the town of Westerly. I'm hoping she wouldn't mind just making some brief comments.
Hi, my name is Sarah O'Toole. I am the Assistant Solicitor for the town of Westerly. I was asked to come today by the town council to observe and give them a report as to what actions were taken here today. However, it is my agreement with Attorney DeSisto as to the facts and travel of this matter.
Okay, there's one final lawyer.
Right. Please come forward, Attorney Main.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening. My name is Robin Main, and I represent David Roth, who lives along Everett Avenue. I'm here tonight to ask that you take into consideration and have a hearing before this subcommittee to allow for evidence from Mr. Roth about the fact that we do not believe there's a public right-of-way that extends to the mean high water mark. I say that because you've heard about the 1890 deed of dedication, but what's missing from the conversation is whether all of Everett Avenue was accepted by the town such that it would become a public way. The articles that Mr. Palazzolo talked about and that I have seen to date talk about road work, but they don't talk about road work all the way through. And it's evident when you look at aerial photographs, maps, and other materials that the road does not extend, Everett that is, does not extend all the way to the water line. So there's a significant question here about acceptance. It is incumbent upon this subcommittee, in my opinion, that you allow for Mr. Roth and potentially others to provide evidence along these ways. And to go back and rely on subcommittee work that was done 45 years ago does not provide a fair platform for the current residents in that area to put forth information. I mean, this has indeed, I guess, laid dormant is the best way to describe it. But to close down any provision of additional information to you by relying on subcommittee hearings that happened 4 years ago is inherently unfair to the landowners in the area, particularly when, by looking at the information that you currently have, you should see that this road does not go to the water, and therefore, in our opinion, is not a right-of-way. But before we even get to stating, what our final opinion is and present it to you, we ask that we be allowed the opportunity to put forth that information, not only based on the aerials and mapping that we have, but also bringing in a title specialist, a title attorney to provide that scale of information to you. So we would like to have that accommodation and have it scheduled for, you know, your meetings in April or whenever the next available time is. And may I also say, I have not seen any memos. I'm getting caught up a bit because Everett has not been on your agenda, but I have not seen any memos from CRMC concluding that Everett is a public right of way, at least nothing that's contemporary.
Any questions of Attorney Main?
I have one question, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Is this property owner, someone who has moved there since 1980?
I don't know, Member Reynolds. I don't know if they've moved there since 1980. I can find out, of course, but I don't have that information.
I'm just curious if he was one of the people that was looking to provide information originally, but didn't.
Yeah. I can't tell you that, and I can't, you know, it's 45 years ago. I can't tell by the age of the person either. I'm sorry.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Do you have any indication that anything has changed on Everett Avenue since 1980?
You know, Mr. DeSisto, without having the benefit of all the files that people are talking about here, I can't say that sitting here today. I'm not going to ever speculate in front of you, but I do have, and I would gather you've seen these, but you know, there's numerous aerials showing, you know, a certain paved part of Everett and then just a dirt area after that. So the whole issue of the area being deeded in 1890 does not give you the full picture. First of all, there's a question of whether that deed of dedication even went to the water. And then the other important key issue is whether there was acceptance of that, at least acceptance for the entire length of Everett. And I sit here tonight saying that we have no proof that all of Everett was accepted by the town.
Okay. I guess I'll ask this of Attorney DeSisto, if it's proper to allow Attorney Main to bring in Mr. Roth for a testimony in that, according to the argument from Mr. Palazzolo, it seems that a prior council vote, after they had an opportunity to review the material and afford its due weight, came up with a decision. And now tonight, many years later, this subcommittee is being asked to accept that, rely upon that, and move forward from that. I'm a little uncomfortable doing that, not having had an opportunity to have sat there. I think I personally would like an opportunity maybe to review those documents, but then out of fairness to Attorney Main and Mr. Roth, afford them an opportunity to come in and say what they want to say. Not that I use this as an excuse that this has been sitting for many, many years, but if it's going to go a couple more months and we can allow everyone an opportunity to be heard on it, I'm inclined to do that.
Well, I'd like to make a suggestion.
Yeah.
Because there was some comments earlier about several rights of way in Westerly that had been approved, at least at the subcommittee level, and then later on lay dormant, so was never completed. Everett Avenue is the first of those that will be considered. All of them are under consideration. This was the first one. To me, based on the record that I've seen, I think there's ample evidence which would support what the subcommittee and council did 45 years ago. The fact that it lay dormant, I'm sure there's reasons for that. But now we have some new enthusiastic staff members, Leah, that have been digging through these files and coming up with this information. So what I'd like to suggest is for the next right-of-way committee meeting, that this matter be put down for approval to be sent to the council. And set a deadline for any information to the contrary that may be submitted. And that what Mr. Palazzolo has submitted become part of this record. So that the council, the committee and council will be able to see all of the records that we have and whatever evidence there is. So this doesn't turn into a thing where all of a sudden April turns into May, June, July, and August. Because that was my question. Has anything changed since 1980? I suspect the case is no. So if there's any evidence, let's get it all out. We do have correspondence from the town of Westerly that indicates that this road was an accepted road. That's part of the record too. And I think that should be included. So we can take a look at it and the neighbors can finally do what they were supposed to do 45 years ago. But I say, let's get it done now, set it down for an approval so we can move this thing along, one way or the other.
Any questions?
I have another question too for Tony. So the same council that made the vote to approve this also then approved the vote to give these people more time, right?
Understood, and that wasn't exercised. And I'm not going on what the council said. As a matter of fact, as Mr. Palazzolo pointed out, because he said he's 2 steps ahead of me and he's correct. I'm not there yet. I'm taking a look at what happened at the subcommittee level back in 1980. And the question to me was, what type of evidence did they have? First, procedurally, were they correct? Now, we've discussed this with Leah, who did most of the research on this. Thank you. The answer is yes. They followed the steps that they were supposed to follow. The next question is, did they have sufficient evidence to make the vote that they made? To me, the answer is yes. There was a public hearing on it. There was support, not only from the town, but also from the public. Whatever happened after that, happened after that. The question is there sufficient evidence on this? Now, what I say is put it down for your next meeting, put it down for approval. We have sufficient evidence. I don't think any other research needs to be done, particularly since we do have the Palazzolo memo, which should be made a part of the record. Anything that Robin can come up with, let her put it in, and then you can make your decision from there, and then it can go to the council for another vote. So this thing is finally done.
I have one follow-up question too. So I know that this is supported by the town. And it has been, I'm curious about the time period that's elapsed since the public hearing. And if the town has any concerns that there may have been a lot of turnover and, you know, it's a different sort of set of circumstances. And if the town's comfortable with the fact that this is not, again, put out for another public hearing.
So it's my understanding from speaking with Attorney Conley that we are comfortable with the decision that was made in I believe it was June of 1980. And we're looking forward to the final step from the CRMC to have this officially labeled as a designated and accepted right of way.
Thank you.
You have a question, sir?
Additional evidence?
Do we want to do that tonight? Is there?
We don't need it tonight, but if you have something else, give it to Lisa, because it's gonna be made part of the record. Whatever you have, we'll take.
I agree with Mr. DeSisto's recommendation.
That's the second time tonight. I want that noted in the record, by the way.
Do we need a vote to?
Robin has something to say, then I'm gonna make a recommendation.
I just have a few questions. So may I be allowed to submit evidence into the record as well?
Yes,
Thank you. And
however,
yes,
not the night of.
understood. And are we talking about April for this?
When's the next meeting?
If we hold to the schedule, the next meeting to discuss this matter or anything but Spring Ave would be the April rights of way meeting.
Okay,
We could post it in March if the subcommittee wants.
I would appreciate April because I think your next March meeting, I am court excused. Thank you. We'll submit information for the record, and at the next meeting, would you take any public comment? I want to be prepared.
we'll leave that to the subcommittee, but the experience that I've had with them is that they always take comments from the public.
Thank you.
To me, the vote should be, because you have this evidence now, this matter should be set down for discussion and possible action, possible approval of the Everett Avenue right of way. And that would be for April, what day?
It would be April 22nd.
Okay, Mr. Lang says has something to say, but can we?
The agreement last month was that it'd be the first or the second Tuesday.
You're right.
Not the fourth Tuesday.
He is correct. That's correct. So it'd be April 8th.
I'm sorry,
Thanks.
April 8th.
8.
Thank you.
So is there an objection to you having your evidence and memoranda in by March 8th?
I don't believe so. If I run into an issue, I will reach out, but
Just want to have time for everybody to be able to respond to it.
understood.
Can I refine that, please, for agenda setting purposes, if it could be the week before, so by the end of March or April 1st at the latest?
No, I'm saying March 8th.
Oh, March 8th. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I beg your pardon. This is going to be for April 8th, correct?
We would be for the
beginning of
April
April 8th?
meeting, yeah.
So the deadline to submit would be March 8th.
I have a quick question. Could I ask Attorney Main if she submits any sort of legal memorandum, if I could receive a copy of it, or Attorney Conley?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
And if there is any sort of legal arguments, would the town of Westerly be able to submit a memorandum to respond to it?
Yes,
Okay. Would we have a different deadline for March 8th or
March 22nd.
Thank you very much.
Subcommittee in a posture to make a motion as recommended by Attorney DeSisto.
So that's
Just
recommendation.
before you take the vote, I'm sorry. That March 8th deadline, if proponents of Everett Avenue have anything else to submit, could you submit it by March 8th? Was that your question?
No, I have a different question.
Okay. Do you mind?
Hmm.
Go ahead.
So just to make sure I have this correct.
Okay, I think he's gonna ask a question.
My final question is, would this subcommittee please consider what is now named Water's Edge Road in conjunction with Everett Avenue? The former name was Meadow Lane, and the essential proofs here are identical between the two roads. There's mapping in which both roads are present. There's a deed in which both roads are listed. There are council minutes in which both roads are adopted. The one distinction here is that Meadow Lane had a name change, I believe, by town ordinance approximately 1996. Everything else seems the same, and it seems to be optimally efficient if you consider both of them at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm not gonna say anything now. I'm all talked out. Sorry, Trish, did you have a motion?
So we're going to acknowledge that we've already had the public hearing for this and that we're going to send this matter to the full council with a recommendation for,
No, you're gonna set the matter down for discussion
Okay.
and a possible approval
okay,
at the April 8th meeting. That's part one of the motion. Part two of the motion is that any memoranda in evidence for or opposed to this designation be submitted no later than March 8th. In that, depending upon what evidence and memoranda are filed, the town of Westerly shall have until March 22nd to respond.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Reynolds, seconded by Mr. Gagnon. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will poll the subcommittee members. Mr. Gagnon,
Aye.
Ms. Reynolds,
aye.
I too, Raymond Coyer, vote aye. And anything else to come before the subcommittee?
There's nothing further on the agenda, Mr. Chair.
All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the subcommittee, please. Motion made and seconded.
Second,
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.